Okay, I'll start out by talking about the hardware. It's good to know what kind of hardware we're working with. This is a Allen Bradley Compact Logics controller. It's an L16ER level 1 controller. It's got Ethernet and it's got redundant Ethernet. If I look down here on the front, you can see the Ethernet ports. Port 1 is on the front, which is this one here. Port 2 is on the bottom. Port number 2 is a pass-through port, so I can actually use port number 2 for another controller or something else that's Ethernet based. On the front, I have a USB connector. Uses a USB type B connector, the old printer connector. Let me pull that out. You can see it. It's that square USB connector. I'm going to use that to show you how to use the USB. It's a handy way to program if you're not sure what the IP address of the controller is. I wrote the IP address, of course, in Sharpie here. Would have written it here, but I couldn't write that small with a Sharpie. It's always a good idea to put a sticker, a label somewhere that's got the IP on it, so you'll know how to talk to it. Okay, let's briefly talk about these indicator lights on the top. Let me zoom into that. Right now I'm in run mode. You can see the run lights on. I/O is okay. The controller itself is okay. The processor's fine. Nothing's forced on. Network status is good. I have no data from either Ethernet port because I'm not plugged into those. My SD card is not active right now. SD card is behind this little door. Okay. I can store a copy of the program on this and make it boot up from the flash drive when I turn on the power. This switch right here puts me in what I like to call hard run. Hard run means you can't change the program remotely. You have to come to the processor and change the mode. So this prevents people from making changes across the network environment. So if you're concerned at all about someone changing your program later on, just go to hard run and you can't do it remotely. Okay, REM means remote, so I can use the software to start, stop, or program the controller. Okay, if I go to program mode, PROG, all I can do is program it, but I can't run it from the software. So again, if I don't want it to run, I can put it in program mode and it won't run. So I have choices here. If the processor faults, let's say there's some kind of a software problem, you'll get a red light on OK. If you want to clear that, all you have to do, go to program mode, go to run mode, go back to remote mode, and you'll clear a processor fault. The problem is if it's faulting, it's probably going to fault again, so you need to find out what's wrong. But that's a quick way to clear a fault without breaking out the laptop and doing anything extra. Okay, across the top here, I have indicators. Green indicators, these are outputs right here. Blue indicators, the blue area is the input connections. Of course, right now I have an input on. That is my stop push button. So I'm going to push that. You can see it go out. Okay, normally closed contact, start right next door. Of course, I have something running in the processor, so it's going to start to respond. My outputs are these indicators here. Right now I don't have anything on. If you look at the I/O connections, input 0 is right here on the top corner. 0, you can see it right here, 0. If I push down the orange dot, I can pull the wire out. I can't do it. I don't have but two hands and I'm holding the camera. But if you push that down, it releases a spring inside. You can pull this wire out. Okay, these are solid wires, so if you strip off about 1/2 inch, you can just push them straight in. You don't even have to push in the dot. You can just push them right in there. Input 0, input 1. Down here I've got a V connection. V is for voltage. So I have 24 volts available right here. Okay, I don't have to run back to the power supply. I'll talk about that here in just 1 second. On the output side, this card will give me 24 volts. So here's output number 8. This white wire is output number 8. You can see it right there. Okay, 0 through 7, 8 through 15. On the output side, I have C connections, C for common. So these are basically negative off the 24 volt power supply. So positive runs the controller, negative is the common. I'm using a couple of common connections here. I have 2 green lights that I wired in series because they are 12 volt lights and I didn't have a 24 volt light handy. So 12 plus 12 is 24. Here's my common connection. This white wire is output number 8. Green lights are output number 8. Here's a red light. Black wire comes off the red light, goes to common. This red wire goes to output number, looks like it's output number 14. It is output 14. Output 15 goes down here to this indicator light. Okay. So let's talk about the power supply connections. You'll notice it's got VDC plus, VDC minus. That's the power for the processor. That comes in on the top 2 screws here, so plus and minus. The third screw down is the chassis ground, the ground for the box. I'm not using that right now. It's plastic and it's on a piece of cardboard, so it's okay. FP is field power. Field power goes out through the connectors over here. If I don't power up the field power connections, I get nothing out on the outputs. So I need that. What I did was put a jumper from FP plus to VDC plus. So I'm feeding power down to the field power connections. They recommend using a separate power supply for the field power just so that you don't have any kind of glitches or problems with the processor power. But I just have one power supply, so I'm just using one. I have a 24 volt switching power supply. It's kind of a universal input, 100 up to 240. I could run this on 208 single phase if I wanted to. A couple of amps here, and that's more than enough. That was Amazon right there, probably about $12 maybe. I like it. It's really good. It even has an output that tells me if it's okay. Of course, I kind of know that, but you know, the green light there. But I could use that as an indicator feeding into something like I don't know, an alarm maybe. Okay. So normally I'd like to leave this in the remote position, the switch. Let's close that door. I can't think of anything else to say about the hardware right now. Looks good to me. So let's stop this video and I'll save it and then I'll do another one.